Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. Once again, I am Father George Ehusani, and I am happy to have again in the studio Chidi, Ejikeme. Chidi, you are welcome once again.
Thank you very much, Father.
This time we want to discuss the properties, the elements, the dynamics of excellence. How does a society achieve excellence? I think it is the year 2016 that I watched a documentary made by BBC on what makes Germany work. Germany works, and all the countries in Europe recognize that Germany is one country that works. Now, what makes it work? And a journalist left the UK and spent 6 months in Germany, inserted himself into the German society to study what is it that makes this country reproduce from pencil to aeroplane, and the society works, the social infrastructures work. He ended up coming to the conclusion that it is discipline. Discipline is part of what makes the society work. Living briefly in Germany, I got to know the expression that they call the typisch Deutsch Ordnung. Typisch Deutsch Ordnung, which is typical German order. Even by European standard, it is a very high level order.
Indeed. Yes.
So, discipline, good education. Now, what are the other elements, and how do these elements of discipline, how do they play out? What are the dynamics? How does the society teach that discipline? How does the society promote good education so as to aspire to and arrive at a society of excellence?
Very good. Yes, Father, the German work ethic and discipline is well known to all. I went to boarding school in England, and one of the things that my housemaster always railed about was what he thought was an absence of work, the requisite work ethic in England vis-a-vis the German, if they were going to compete with Germany. You know, they start an hour earlier to work in the morning. They don't stop for tea. When the British stop for tea, they work right through to lunchtime, and then work an hour later. Once you have that, those are man hours. You cannot, unless you increase your man hours, you're not going to, as long as competition is based on bringing products to the marketplace. Yeah. Even a better example would be what Chairman Mao did in China. The Great Leap Forward, the Cultural Revolution, and all of that. We have to say in Nigeria, do we want to move forward as one? Again, back to the nation, because this is social engineering. At its best, it's what it's all about. If the people all agree that this is what we want to do, that we're growing a nation, then it becomes much easier. Education is key. Fundamental. Yeah, and there you have it. It's education. Education itself engenders discipline, and you begin to see the reason, the cause and effect for what we're trying to do. Back to the herdsman, people keep saying whatever the problems are. The minute, again, in my view, personally, ranching is inevitable. But the minute you ranch, you're going to have an explosion of cancers, and simply because the animals are transiting from free rangers to static ranched,
so to create new
static ranched animals. Yes, they will get fat, the immunity will drop. You control that immunity with chemicals and antibiotics and steroids,
and that way,
and then the cancers will come into our system. So, but if you don't have education, you're not going to expect this. You're not going to anticipate it properly and plan for it. Okay, so there you have it. That's what we have to do. We need to be serious with our education of our youth, of our very young.
I mean, right now we have all kinds of educational enterprises, all kinds of institutions, pre-nursery, nursery, primary, and so on. I wonder what level of supervision and monitoring is there for, every kind of group now coming into education and
in theory, all the monitoring systems are there. In practice, they are dead, owing to corruption. There's a corruption of institutions, the atrophying of our institutions owing to corruption and all of that.
And this corruption, this monster we call corruption.
The greatest growth industry in Nigeria is corruption.
Yeah, this terrible industry. This terrible industry. One could even say it is on account of poor education. Because poor education that doesn't help somebody to know the cause and effect relationship between corrupt practices and failed society.
Precisely. Because if you have the education, then you're likely to be less corrupt. And I'll give you a prime example. If you're a tailor in Minna or a shoemaker in Minna, from whichever tribe, that would be the natural tribe in Minna, if you will, and it takes you 6 months to buy a motorbike from your labours.
Yes. And
there's somebody in Inewi, not your brother, not your religious mate in any way, but if the nation empowers that fellow to make spark plugs, and people are coming in from Togo and Ghana to buy spark plugs, you as a polisher of shoes and cobbler or whatever, it might take you 6 months less, 50% less time to buy that motorbike than it would otherwise if you didn't empower that chappie, because we're all spending the same naira.
Yes.
So if it's backed by products, the demand for it increases, the value increases. You, as in your own little corner, spending the naira, your life is being impacted by the activity down there.
Yes,
if you don't know that, you think, oh, he's from a different tribe, don't empower him, and then you all suffer, everybody suffers. That's just the colossal, colossal tragedy of what we're caught up in.
The desertification problem that we have, which is now resulting in herdsmen moving down, people moving from Niger, from whatever.
Yes.
I'm told that we have had situations in this country where somebody raises the whole issue of desertification and the need to invest in forestation projects.
It was being done in Nigeria.
And somebody said, no. I mean, no, that's their business there. But you see, if you do not know that fire on the hill there, that your activity down the valley here could be responsible for the fire on the hill.
An existential threat to all.
To all.
Yes.
To all.
Yeah.
So it means that the consequences of poor education are enormous. That's what it means.
Yeah. Indeed.
Beginning from the home, the kind of upbringing that, parents work on with their children. How are children brought up? What values are they brought up with? Then you go to secondary school, you go to the university, even though people come out with a degree that says they have been found worthy in character and learning, what quality of character? What quality of learning?
The social, economic environment is eroding family values, even when people are not aware or don't want it to be eroded, simply because the challenges are enormous for the individual, for the family units. If you've got mismanagement owing to all the reasons that you've enumerated, education, corruption, if that is going on, your family unit is challenged.
So it's once again like chicken and egg situation. Because if the family is not stable, if the family is too...
It's a vicious circle that is giving birth to a collateral socio-economic, socio-political disaster in the country. Tragedy unfolding, But again, in the life of nations, it's correctable.
It is.
It's correctable. In 20 years, it's correctable. You see the results. You see, so there's still. Again, it's not a situation.
How do we raise a crop of leaders that can spearhead, champion this process of correcting, re-engineering, as it were? Yeah. How do we raise a crop of, and when I say crop of leaders, I don't just mean the people in National Assembly or at every level, leaders in the church, leaders in the village, leaders in the family. How do we, from where we are, because you see, we seem to have gone down so far that, okay, you can say we are hitting rock bottom and the only way to go is up. But do we have in place the quality of persons who can lead us, who can direct our move upwards?
Situation seems bleak, seems grim and dire, but we still have Nigerians across the board. I wouldn't want to start enumerating, naming names, but we have Nigerians who have earnest, well-intended. They may not all be in key leadership positions that we want them to be in, but they will get there. You know,
they will get there.
They will get there. I mean, it's part of the change that is inevitable. People come to a point where you can't implode anymore. You know, there are Nigerians who are being trained within and without the country. There are young people growing up. If you don't want the child growing up to take a gun and shoot you, then, you know, at some point you realize that. And when I was younger, I thought that the solution lay in corruption, actually. And if all the people and all the tribes go in and steal, and after stealing, you have to say, now what do we do?
What do we do?
The goose is about to die. Can we now do something
to
for
make
the next?
Sure that
because we've all stolen and we've all got money, so let's try and now do the work. We may have come to that point,
but there's no end to the stealing. I mean, the stealing is being going on.
That's when you recognize that humans have a capacity for unbridled greed
Endless.
that must impress even God.
Yes, endless capacity.
Yeah. But I hope that you know there is an urge that it cannot be repressed. When you realize that self-determination again is critical, it's a part of human basic aspirations. I think that in itself creates
the various people that have aspirations in this country, and you are very correct that there are good people. There are a lot of our young people, they have aspirations for self-determination, for self-realization, for self-actualization in various corners of this country. But are there people who are helping them and help, as it were, galvanize this and pointing them in the right direction? Because if you don't have such people, then the violent implosion, the revolution we are talking about that will not do anybody any good may happen.
Well, you know, again, personally, for instance, with IPOB, I had my problems, my issues with the young man and his modus. But you see, at the end of the day, we have to recognize that he's shaking us, huge segments of society, out of a sudden lethargy. I'm very happy to see that there's earnest bridge building, the handshake across the Niger, for instance. The Ibadan declaration was immediately sanctioned by Ohaneze. You find that people almost, it's like, you know, if we don't do it this way, these young people are going will blow us all up in this country. So we better get serious and get to work. And that is in itself inevitable change and positive and very welcome.
I mean, clearly, the whole IPOP thing is a commentary on how those who are supposed to...
A sad commentary on where what we've become and where we've come to. Yes, indeed.
And then you see the people who are emerging as the movers of the young people here and there. You see the social media and you see who is taking leadership. And people who have no idea about the kind of history you are narrating about Nigeria. People who have no idea. If Chinua Achebe says there was a country, people who have no idea of that country. There was. They are the ones now taking...
Interestingly enough, I wrote something that I'm tired of trying to tell people, Ojukwu didn't go to Aburi looking or asking for Biafra. He didn't want Biafra. You know, Biafra was almost a default position to save lives and properties. That wasn't what he wanted. He didn't go there looking for. He was actually looking for a restructured Nigeria. Do you see? But there are young people who think today that if they ask for Nigeria, for Biafra, that they stand, that this is what their people, their forebears and their fathers wanted and Ojukwu wanted. No, it's not. Absolutely not. Not correct.
And who have not, the young people who have not calculated.
But they were not taught history.
All the consequences.
They were not taught history. So you don't blame them if they don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's a scenario everywhere in the country. People have not been well taught. So can you really blame them, the positions they take?
We have to bear responsibility. Wole Soyinka said his generation was a wasted generation.
And then the next generation after our own
is lost. If you have wasted, and then you have lost. But the thing is that he was able to say, look, we must hold ourselves responsible for certain problems and dislocations, you know, and this is the consequence. The people who come out and say we must have Biafra or everybody must die, you know, thinking that it has historical legitimacy. No, it does not.
So the generation, your generation, my generation, after Wole Soyinka. So what must we do? Do we just declare ourselves lost or wasted again, and then the next generation?
There's a lovely song that says, teach them well.
Teach them well.
Children are our future. Teach them well so they will know. We must teach them well. If we don't, we're lost.
So the people who are, we mentioned education. We have been talking about how fundamental education is in this whole project. The people who are in the ministries of education, we cannot but talk about government, because everyone is setting up schools, but it is government that is meant to monitor standards. And ensure that Nigerian children are given the right orientation, what subjects are taught, and so on and so forth. The people who are inspectors and directors in the various government departments that are supposed to...
We're going back to the beginning. Corruption, distraction. Your government is distracted. If your minister is sitting at his table and thinking about the house he bought in Dubai and how to manage that house, he's not going to be focused on what is at his table, on his table.
So what can we, if that is the situation on the level of governance, what can we, the generality of Nigerians, do? I mean, I tried my little bit in my church, but I mean, I went further and set up a leadership outfit and, you know, do some trainings and give some of this orientation, but that's a small group. What can the rest of Nigerians...
Many small groups will make a big impact.
Okay. Okay.
Many small groups. I
met you at one of those groups.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So things are going on. Yeah. It's never so dire that we become all pessimists. You know, we have a country, we have resources, we have people.
So we
must have hope,
because So we should sustain in hope, recognizing that we have work to do, and that this thing we can turn it around. I'm one of the most. I admire your optimism and your hope, your sense of hope that things will fix themselves, as it were.
No, not fix themselves. We fix them. We have to do the work.
if we fold our hands,
there's no magic wand. No.
So we have. That's what I mean. We have work to do.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
It means that things will not turn around for good without our involvement.
So many Nigerians love America. America was just plain
Vast
prairie, open prairie, where the buffalo roamed free.
Yes.
But they built a nation by work, hard work.
It's like what we said about Germany. They built a nation. China, they built a nation. So it will not happen without our doing. So this question of harvesting the little money or resources from Nigeria and take them to England and take them to Dubai is not going to lead us anywhere.
You know, there's short-term expectations, short-term goals and long-term goals. We shouldn't, I think, expect that we must do everything in one generation or in one, you know. The business of nation building is never ending. And we'll do our own part. A friend of mine used to delight in reminding me that the Britannica Encyclopedia in its preface says that Western education is an edifice under construction, perennially under construction.
It has to be
each successive generation does its own inputting, exits, and the next. So, you know, we have to see that it's something colossal. It's huge in the expanse of time.
And then it means that we have to. Your disposition is very correct. We are believers. As a Christian, I am a person of hope. Hope is so central to the Christian orientation, to the Christian worldview. We survive by hope. So that Nigeria could be better, Nigeria will be better, but that I have work to do today towards the emergence of the Nigeria of my dream. And that all of us have work to do, and that to go around encouraging one another. Just as you said, this little bit civil society groups, village societies, town hall meetings, that we keep doing all this.
If we can evolve and find reasons enough to evolve a positive disposition and attitude, and we can infect others with it. The self-fulfilling prophecy is a phenomenon that a lot of educated people know about. If we're positive enough and have enough people being positive enough, positive change will occur.
Yes, because it is that positive orientation that makes you wake up in the morning and decide to do something. Because you believe that at the end of the day, it's within your power, and that your little contribution will amount to something. For Nigerians to recognize, I tell people, when I see people who jump traffic lights, who violate traffic regulations, and I say, do you know that your little contribution by staying in the queue and not violating traffic regulations, even though there is no police to arrest you, do you know that that little contribution can help make Nigeria better?
Interestingly enough, my optimism, as you keep referring to it, is born out of a certain understanding that at that junction, if you keep running the lights at that junction, your son might come and do it one day and die at that junction. So if he has younger siblings, they will become more mindful of the dynamic, the green, the red, and the yellow.
Yeah. I mean, talking about running the red lights, I think there must be drivers in Abuja who don't know what those lights mean. I mean, once they don't see cars coming, they just drive through. And in fact, if they see you stopping, they are hooting. I mean, it's like, why are you wasting our time? Can't you see that there's no car coming? And so there doesn't seem to be any agencies of government that call these drivers that come from wherever and got their driver's license by how, I don't know.
By whichever way.
By whichever way. There doesn't seem to be any agency that is regularly calling them to educate them. Because you can actually see them angry that you stop.
We have a national orientation agency. We have all these things in theory. We're struggling to put them into play.
So for all of us who are committed to a better Nigeria, for all of us who want to bequeath a more sane society to our children and children's children, we have work to do. And we can't wait for leaders that have no such commitment. We can't wait for those who are out to just exploit the system. We who have a commitment to the project called Nigeria, the enterprise called Nigeria, one, we must link hands together. There needs to be quite some networking. Across from north to south, east to west.
Can we rephrase Wale Soyinka as the king in every man and talk about the leader in every man?
Person, yes. So the leader in every man and woman, and link hands together and get to discover that, oh, Chidi, you have these fantastic ideas about a better Nigeria. So let's meet more often and exchange ideas. And then my network of friends and your network of friends, we bring them together, and then we'll be building...
Through synergy.
Yes. We begin to build a critical mass that will help transform the society. This, like you said, the realization that where we are headed for will not take us to the land of our dreams. We need to change our course. I mean, I'm looking at, each time you read about this big money stolen, huge money stolen, they're allegedly stolen, you're asking yourself, does this man or woman, does he or she think? What society are you preparing for the future? I mean, with Donald Trump coming to America, you can see a revival of white supremacy and so on and so forth. So if you think that the future is in your children going to America, going to Europe, can you see that perhaps they will not enjoy that place as much as they could enjoy here if you get this place ready for them, you know? So we have a lot of work to do, and I thank you once again for your optimism. Okay. And this is a Christian attitude, I would say.
Thank you.
And we all must encourage one another that Nigeria is failing, but that we can save it. Nigeria may be hitting rock bottom,
and it's worth saving.
And it's worth saving. Yes. It's a beautiful land.
For generations to come.
It's a beautiful land, and we have no other anyway. This is our land, and we must all work towards building it. Dubai, it was built by those, by human beings,
not by gods,
who decided to
pharaohs.
Only 25-30 years ago decided to transform a desert into such a beautiful place. America was built by people. Germany was built by people. This is where God
and Nigeria is inhabited by people.
Yes. And those people who inhabit this place, we must build our society. And on that note, on that very hopeful note that our society can be transformed for the better, I want to thank you once again for coming to the studio.
Thank you, Father. Had a great time.
Thank you.